Captain Jack Sparrow is a fictional character in the Pirates of the Caribbean film series. The character was created by screenwriters Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio, and is portrayed by Johnny Depp. He is first introduced in the film Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. He later appears in the sequels Dead Man's Chest, At World's End, and On Stranger Tides. He was brought to life by Depp, who based his characterization on the Rolling Stones guitarist Keith Richards and cartoon character Pepé Le Pew. The series Pirates of the Caribbean was inspired by a Disney theme park ride, and when the ride was revamped in 2006, the character of Captain Jack Sparrow was added to it. He also headlines the Legend of Captain Jack Sparrow attraction at Disney's Hollywood Studios. Sparrow is also the subject of a children's book series Pirates of the Caribbean, Jack Sparrow, which chronicles his teenage years, and he has also appeared in several video games. In the context of the films, Sparrow is one of the 9 pirate lords in the Brethren Court, the pirate lords of the 7 seas. He can be treacherous and survives mostly by using wit and negotiation rather than weapons or force, preferring to flee most dangerous situations and fight only when necessary. Sparrow is introduced seeking to regain his ship, the Black Pearl, from his mutinous first mate, Hector Barbossa, and later attempts to escape his blood debt to the legendary Davy Jones while battling the East India Trading Company. The character's role was expanded more as the films progress. Films: The Curse of the Black Pearl. Captain Jack Sparrow first appears in The Curse of the Black Pearl, when he arrives in Port Royal looking to commandeer a ship. Despite rescuing Elizabeth Swann, the daughter of Governor Weatherby Swann from drowning, he is jailed for extreme piracy. That night, a cursed ship called the Black Pearl attacks Port Royal, capturing Elizabeth in the process. Its captain, Hector Barbossa, is trying desperately to break an ancient Aztec curse that he and the crew are under. Alterna, a blacksmith, frees Sparrow so that he can aid him in rescuing Elizabeth. They commandeer the HMS Interceptor and acquire a crew in Tortuga before heading to Isla de Muerta, where Elizabeth is being held captive. Along the way, Will learns that Sparrow was originally captain of the Black Pearl, but Barbossa posed as his first mate in order to steal the ship from him, eventually leaving him marooned on an island 10 years earlier. Unfortunately, the rescue attempt goes awry and Jack soon finds himself marooned again along with Elizabeth. The pair are rescued by the British Royal Navy, after Elizabeth uses some rum found on the island to send off a smoke bomb signal. In order to escape hanging, Sparrow cuts a deal to deliver them the pearl. However, Commodore James Norrington insists rescuing Turner will be a dangerous and fruitless trip. Elizabeth, desperate, leaps forward and subdued to the Commodore's marriage proposal. Norrington agrees and sends Jack down to bilges, telling him to consider all meanings of the phrase, silent as the grave. During the film's final battle at Isla de Muerta, Sparrow steals a cursed coin, making himself immortal so he can duel Barbossa on equal footing. He shoots his rival with the same pistol he had carried for 10 years just as Will breaks the curse, killing Barbossa. Despite his assistance to the Navy, Sparrow is re-arrested and sentenced to be hanged by the neck until dead. At his scheduled execution in Port Royal, Will comes to his rescue, but they are quickly surrounded. Right at that moment, Elizabeth shows her love for Will, and he is pardoned, while Sparrow escapes by falling off the sea wall. He is rescued by the Black Pearl's new crew, and made captain once more. Apparently impressed by the clever pirate, Commodore James Norrington allows him 1 day's head start before giving chase. Dead Man's Chest. A year after the events of the first film, Sparrow begins searching for the Dead Man's Chest, which will help him control the seas and save himself, who bartered his soul to Captain Davy Jones in return for Jones raising the sunken Black Pearl and making Sparrow captain. Sparrow must either serve for 100 years aboard the Flying Dutchman, or be taken by the Kraken to Davy Jones's locker. The Dead Man's Chest contains Jones's heart, which Sparrow can use as leverage against Jones and end his debt. Adding to Sparrow's woes, Lord Cutler Beckett of the East India Trading Company wants to settle his own debt with Sparrow and forces Will Turner to search for him. Will finds Sparrow and his crew hiding from the Kraken on Pelegosto, where they have been captured by cannibals and Jack pretends to be king. Jack exclaims to divert the cannibals. They escape, but Davy Jones captures them and demands that Jack pay his debt. Jack argues that he has been captain for only 2 years before being mutinied by Barbossa, but Jones rejects his argument, stating that he's been calling himself Captain Jack Sparrow for the allotted years. Sparrow betrays Will to Davy Jones as part of a new deal. He recruits sailors in Tortuga, where he encounters Elizabeth and James Norrington, who has turned to alcohol. Convincing Elizabeth that she can free Will by finding the chest, the duo head for Isla Cruces after finding its location with Jack's magic compass. Will also arrives, having escaped Jones's ship after stealing the key to the chest. Will wants to stab the heart and free his father who is in Jones's service, while Norrington, who has discovered that Beckett desires the heart in order to control Davy Jones, and the Caesar hopes to regain his career and honor by delivering the heart to Beckett. Jones' crew attacks the Black Pearl. Norrington steals the heart amidst the ensuing battle. Jones summons the Kraken to attack Sparrow's ship. Sparrow helps blow up the Kraken's tentacles before abandoning the ship. When his first mate Joshua Gibbs asks if he is sure that he wants to leave the Pearl behind to the Kraken, Jack reluctantly replies, "She's only a ship, mate." Realizing that the Kraken only wants Sparrow, Elizabeth tricks him by giving him a passionate kiss while chaining him to the mast. Though Sparrow manages to free himself from the mast, he cannot escape to safety. Jack resigns himself to his fate and charges the beast's mouth, muttering, "Hello beastie." Sparrow and the Pearl are dragged down to Davy Jones's locker. The crew seeks solace at the home of Tia Dalma, who surprises them by offering a captain who can help rescue Sparrow, Barbossa, brought back to life at her doing. At World's End. By this time, Davy Jones's heart is in Cutler Beckett's possession and he begins exterminating all pirates with the Flying Dutchman under his command. In order to combat the combined threat of Beckett and Jones, the 9 pirate lords of the Brethren Court are summoned to convene at Shipwreck Cove. Though taken to Davy Jones's locker at the end of the previous film, Sparrow, who is Pirate Lord of the Caribbean, must attend the meeting, as he failed to bequeath his piece of 8, a Pirate Lord's identification marker, to an heir. The collective 9 pieces of 8 can free the sea goddess Calypso. Barbossa leads Sparrow's crew to Davy Jones's locker using the Pirate Lord Saufang's navigational charts. There Sparrow has been hallucinating an entire crew of himself, each member representing a facet of his personality. After Barbossa and the crew find him, Sparrow deciphers a clue on the charts that indicates they must capsize the Black Pearl to escape the locker. At sunset, the ship upturns back into the living world. Sparrow and Barbossa journey to the Brethren Court where they encounter Elizabeth, who was traded to Saufang, and was made a pirate lord by him just before he died. At the Brethren Court, she is elected Pirate King after Sparrow breaks a stalemate, and Sparrow is briefly reunited with his apparently estranged father, Captain Jack. During parley, he is traded for Will, who was captured by Jones and Beckett after Sparrow sent him overboard. When Sparrow negotiates with Beckett in the extended version, it is revealed that he once sailed the Black Pearl under Beckett's command, but deserted when he refused to sail with slaves. The Black Pearl and the Flying Dutchman face off in battle during a maelstrom created by Calypso, during which, Sparrow steals Davy Jones's heart in order to become immortal. However, when Jones mortally wounds Will, Jack ultimately chooses to save Will by helping him stab the heart, killing Jones and making Will the Dutchman's new captain. Together, the Pearl and the Dutchman destroy Beckett's ship. At the end of the film, Barbossa again commandeers the Pearl and Saufang's charts, marooning Sparrow and Mr. Gibbs in Tortuga. Fortunately, Jack has already removed the chart center, and he sets sail in a dinghy, using his compass and the chart to guide him to the Fountain of Youth. On stranger tides. After reaching a dead end in his search for the Fountain of Youth, Sparrow makes his way to London, where he hears of someone going by his name to gather a crew. Along the way, Sparrow poses as a judge to save the convicted Mr. Gibbs before being captured by the royal guards and summoned to an audience with the British monarch, King George II, and Barbossa, now a privateer in the Royal Navy. By then, Sparrow crosses paths with his imposter, Revealed to be an old flame named Angelica who shanghais him to the Queen Anne's Revenge, the ship of the horrific Blackbeard who forces Jack to help him reach the Fountain of Youth. Learning the full story behind it, Jack attempts to set up Blackbeard's demise and save the naive Angelica from her father. After some trouble with mermaids and the Spanish Navy, he succeeds by tricking Blackbeard into giving up his life to save Angelica. Angelica holds him accountable for her father's death even though Jack retorts that he just did what any father would have done. Jack and Angelica admit their love for one another, but Jack maroons Angelica on a stranded island, knowing that she will probably want to avenge her father's death. He then has Gibbs retrieve the shrunken black pearl in the hopes of finding a way to restore it to regular size. When asked about giving up his chance for immortality, Jack answers that immortality is not everything, though he admits making a name for himself as the one who found the fountain is good enough immortality at the moment. After the end credits of the film, the voodoo doll of Jack is seen drifting at sea towards the island Sparrow stranded Angelica on. Dead Men Tell No Tales, Captain Jack Sparrow will return in the fifth film, portrayed once again by Johnny Depp. Jack and his team are in search of the trident, about which Captain Tiag holds valuable information. The villain this time is Captain Brand, a ghost that wants the trident so he can get his revenge on Jack. Brand believes Jack turned his brother Eric into a pirate, which led to his death. Also, Jack becomes enchanted by Barbossa's daughter, Corina Smith, a woman called a witch by some though she's actually an adept astronomer. Concept and creation, character creation. When writing the screenplay for The Curse of the Black Pearl, Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio envisioned Captain Jack Sparrow as a supporting character, citing Bugs Bunny and Groucho Marx as influences. The producers saw him as a young Burt Lancaster. Director Gore Verbinski admitted, "The first film was a movie, and then Jack was put into it almost. He doesn't have the obligations of the plot in the same ways that the other characters have. He meanders his way through, and he kind of affects everybody else." Sparrow represents an ethical pirate, with Captain Barbossa as his corrupt foil. His true motives usually remain masked, and whether he is honorable or evil depends on the audience's perspective. This acts as part of Will Turner's arc, in which Sparrow tells him a pirate can be a good man, like his father. Following the success of The Curse of the Black Pearl, the challenge to creating a sequel was, according to Verbinski, "You don't want just the Jack Sparrow movie. It's like having a garlic milkshake. He's the spice and you need a lot of straight minna. Let's not give them too much Jack. It's like too much dessert or too much of a good thing." Although Dead Man's Chest was written to propel the trilogy's plot, Sparrow's state of mind as he is pursued by Davy Jones becomes increasingly edgy, and the writers concocted the cannibal sequence to show that he was in danger whether on land or at sea. Sparrow is also perplexed over his attraction to Elizabeth Swann, and attempts to justify it throughout the film. At World's End was meant to return it tonally to a character piece. Sparrow, in particular, is tinged with madness after extended solitary confinement in Davy Jones's locker, and now desires immortality. Sparrow struggles with what it takes to be a moral person, after his honest streak caused his doom in the second film. This is mainly shown by his increasingly erratic behavior and Jack's hallucinations, which appeared to be simply his deranged mind in the beginning, where dozens of Jack Sparrows appeared to crew the ship in his solitary exile, but later the hallucinations grew more important and there were mainly two Jacks constantly arguing about which path to follow, the immortality or the mortality. The last hallucination took place while Jack was imprisoned on the Dutchman, where his honest streak won, possibly due to not liking his sea creature-like future, which comedically dropped his brain and searched for it around the Brigadier. By the end of At World's End, Sparrow is sailing to the Fountain of Youth, an early concept for the second film. Rossio has said they may write the screenplay for a fourth film, and producer Jerry Bruckheimer has expressed interest in a spin-off. Gore Verbinski concurred that all of the stories set in motion by the first film have been resolved. "If there ever were another Pirates of the Caribbean film, I would start fresh and focus on the further adventures of Captain Jack Sparrow." On Stranger Tides was first announced on September 28, 2008 during a Disney event at the Kodak Theater. Gore Verbinski did not return to direct the fourth installment and was replaced by Rob Marshall. The movie uses elements from Tim Power's novel of the same name, particularly Blackbeard and the Fountain of Youth, but the film is not a straight adaptation of the novel. Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp was looking to do a family film in 2001, and was visiting the Walt Disney Studios when he heard there were plans to adapt the Pirates of the Caribbean ride into a film. Depp was excited by the possibility of reviving an old Hollywood genre, and was further delighted that the script met his quirky sensibilities. The crew of the Black Pearl were not searching for treasure, but were instead trying to return it to lift their curse. In addition, the traditional mutiny had already occurred. Depp was cast on June 10, 2002. Producer Jerry Bruckheimer felt Depp was an edgy actor who will kind of counter the Disney Country Bears soft quality and tell an audience that an adult and teenager can go see this and have a good time with it. At the first read-through, Depp surprised the cast and crew by portraying the character in an off-kilter manner. After researching 18th-century pirates, Depp compared them to modern rock stars and decided to base his performance on Keith Richards. Richards would later appear in 2 cameos as Jack's father, Captain Jack, in At World's End and on Stranger Tides. Verbinski and Bruckheimer had confidence in Depp, partly because Orlando Bloom would be playing the traditional Errol Flynn-type character. Depp also improvised the film's final line, "Now, bring me that horizon," which is the writer's favorite line. Disney executives were initially confused by Depp's performance, asking him whether the character was drunk or gay. Michael Eisner even proclaimed while watching Rush's, "He's ruining the film." Depp responded, "Look, these are the choices I made. You know my work. So either trust me or give me the boot." Many industry insiders also questioned Depp's casting, as he was an unconventional actor not known for working within the traditional studio system. Depp's performance was highly acclaimed by film critics. Alan Morrison found it gloriously over-the-top. In terms of physical precision and verbal delivery, it's a masterclass in comedy acting. Roger Ebert also found his performance original in its every atom. There has never been a pirate, or for that matter a human being, like this in any other movie. His behavior shows a lifetime of rehearsal. Ebert also praised Depp for drawing away from the way the character was written. Depp won a Screen Actors Guild Award for his performance, and was also nominated for a Golden Globe and the Academy Award for Best Actor, the first in his career. Film school rejects argued that because of the film, Depp became as much a movie star as he was a character actor. Johnny Depp returned as Jack Sparrow in Dead Man's Chest, the first time the actor had ever made a sequel. Drew McWeeny noted, "Remember how cool Han Solo was in Star Wars the first time you saw it? And then remember how much cooler he seemed when Empire came out? This is that bigger jump." Depp received an MTV Movie Award and a Teen Choice Award for Dead Man's Chest, and was also nominated for an Empire Award and another Golden Globe. For his performance in At World's End, Depp won an MTV Movie Award for Best Comedic Performance, as well as a People's Choice Award, a Kids' Choice Award, and another Teen Choice Award. He has signed on to reprise the role for future sequels. Makeup and costumes. Johnny Depp wore a wig to portray Sparrow's dreadlocks, an aesthetic influenced by Depp's rock-and-roll approach to pirates. In addition to a red bandana, Sparrow wears numerous objects in his hair, influenced by Keith Richards' habit of collecting souvenirs from his travels. Sparrow's decorations include his piece of 8. Sparrow wears kohl around his eyes, which was inspired by Depp's study of nomads, whom he compared to pirates, and Depp also wore contacts that acted as sunglasses. Sparrow has several gold teeth, 2 of which belong to Depp, although they were applied during filming. Depp forgot to have them removed after shooting The Curse of the Black Pearl, and decided to keep them throughout shooting of the sequels. Like all aspects of Depp's performance, Disney initially expressed great concern over Depp's teeth. Sparrow wears his goatee in 2 braids. Initially wire was used in them, but the wires were abandoned because they made the braids stick up when Depp lay down. Sparrow also has numerous tattoos, and has been branded a pirate on his right arm by Cutler Beckett, underneath a tattoo of a sparrow. Depp collaborated with costume designer Penny Rose on his character's appearance, hand-picking a tricorn as Sparrow's signature leather hat. The other characters in the series could not wear leather hats, to make Sparrow's unique. For the scene when it floats on water in Dead Man's Chest, a rubber version was used. Depp liked to stick to one costume, wearing one lightweight silk tweed frock coat throughout the series, and he had to be coaxed out of wearing his boots for a version without a sole or heel in beach scenes. The official line is that none of the costumes from The Curse of the Black Pearl survived, which allowed the opportunity to create tougher linen shirts for stunts. However, one remains, which has been displayed in an exhibition of screen costumes in Worcester, England. It was a nightmare for Rose to track down the same makers of Sparrow's sash in Turkey. Rose did not want to silk screen it, as the home-woven piece had the correct worn feel. Sparrow wears an additional belt in the sequels, because Depp liked a new buckle which did not fit with the original piece. Sparrow's weapons are genuine 18th-century pieces. His sword dates to the 1740s, while his pistol is from the 1760s. Both were made in London. Depp used 2 pistols on set, one being rubber. Both props survived after production of the first film. Sparrow's magic compass also survived into the sequels, though director Gore Verbinski had a red arrow added to the dial as it became a more prominent prop. As it does not act like a normal compass, a magnet was used to make it spin. Sparrow wears 4 rings, 2 of which belong to Depp. Depp bought the green ring in 1989 and the gold ring is a replica of a 2,400-year-old ring Depp gave to the crew, though the original was later stolen. The other 2 are props to which Depp gave backstories. The gold and black ring is stolen from a Spanish widow Sparrow seduced, and the green dragon ring recalls his adventures in the Far East. Among Depp's additional ideas was the necklace made of human toes that Sparrow wears as the Pelegosto prepare to eat him, and the scepter was based on one a friend of Depp's owned. During the course of the trilogy, Sparrow undergoes physical transformations. In The Curse of the Black Pearl, Sparrow curses himself to battle the undead Barbossa. Like all the actors playing the Black Pearl crew, Depp had to shoot scenes in costume as a reference for the animators, and his shots as a skeleton were shot again without him. Depp reprised the scene again on a motion capture stage. In At World's End, Sparrow hallucinates a version of himself as a member of Davy Jones's crew, adhered to a wall and encrusted with barnacles. Director Gore Verbinski oversaw that the design retained Sparrow's distinctive look, and rejected initial designs which portrayed him as over 100 years old. Characterization: according to screenwriters Elliott and Terry Rossio, Sparrow is a trickster who uses wit and deceit to attain his goals, preferring to end disputes verbally instead of by force. He walks with a slightly drunken swagger and has slurred speech and flailing hand gestures. Sparrow is shrewd, calculating, and eccentric. He fools Commodore Norrington and his entire crew to set sail on the royal ship Interceptor, which compels the admiration of Lieutenant Groves as he concedes, "That's got to be the best pirate I have ever seen." Norrington himself acquiesces to this praise, so it would seem, in sharp contrast to what he had previously proclaimed, "You are without doubt the worst pirate I have ever heard of." In the third film, while he leaves Beckett's ship stranded and makes off, Lieutenant Groves asks him, "Do you think he plans it all out, or just makes it up as he goes along?" In combat, Sparrow is a skilled swordsman, but uses his superior intelligence to his advantage during fights, exploiting his environment to turn the tables on his foes rather than relying purely on his skill with a sword. Jack usually prefers the strategies of non-violent negotiations and turning his enemies against each other, reasoning, "Why fight when you can negotiate? All one needs is the proper leverage." He will invoke parley and tempt his enemies away from their murderous intentions, encouraging them to see the bigger picture, as he does when he persuades Barbossa to delay returning to mortal form so he can battle the British Royal Navy. He often uses complex wordplay and vocabulary to confound his enemies, and it is suggested that his pacifism may be one reason Barbossa and the Black Pearl crew mutinied. Barbossa says in the first film, "Jack, that's exactly the attitude that lost you the pearl. People are easier to search when they're dead." The character is portrayed as having created, or at least contributed to, his own reputation. When Gibbs tells Will that Sparrow escaped from a desert island by strapping two sea turtles together, Sparrow embellishes the story by claiming the rope was made from hair from his own back, while in reality, Sparrow escaped the island by bartering with rum traders. The video game Pirates of the Caribbean, The Legend of Jack Sparrow bases itself around these tall tales, including the sacking of Nassau port without firing a single shot. In a script draft of Dead Man's Chest, Will's guide says that he heard Sparrow escaped execution in Port Royal by grabbing two parrots and flying away. Johnny Depp has said pirates were like rock stars in that their fame preceded them, which suggests a reason for the portrayal of Sparrow as having an enormous ego. Sparrow also insists on being addressed as Captain Jack Sparrow and often gives the farewell, "This is the day you will always remember as the day that you almost caught Captain Jack Sparrow," which is sometimes humorously cut off. When accused by Norrington as being the worst pirate he has ever heard of, Sparrow replies, "But you have heard of me." In a deleted scene from The Curse of the Black Pearl, Sparrow ponders being the immortal Captain Jack Sparrow, and during At World's End he again is interested in immortality, although his father, Captain Tiag, warns it can be a terrible curse. Sparrow also ponders being Captain Jack Sparrow, the last pirate, as the East India Trading Company purges piracy. Despite his many heroics, Sparrow is a pirate and a morally ambiguous character. When agreeing to trade 100 souls, including Will, to Davy Jones in exchange for his freedom, Jones asks Sparrow whether he can condemn an innocent man a friend to a lifetime of servitude in your name while you roam free. After a hesitation, Sparrow merrily replies, "Yep. I'm good with it." He carelessly runs up debts with Anna Maria, Davy Jones, and the other pirate lords. Sao Phang, pirate lord of Singapore, is particularly hateful towards him. In a cowardly moment, Sparrow abandons his crew during the Krakens' attack, but underlying loyalty and morality compel him to return and save them. Sparrow claims to be a man of his word, and expresses surprise that people doubt his truthfulness. There is also no murder on his criminal record. Depp partly based the character on Pepé Le Pew, a womanizing skunk from Looney Tunes. Sparrow claims to have a tremendous intuitive sense of the female creature, although his conquests are often left with a sour memory of him. Former flames, Scarlett and Giselle, usually slap him or anyone looking for him. His witty charm easily attracts women, and even has Elizabeth questioning her feelings. Director Gore Verbinski noted phallic connotations in Sparrow's relationship with his vessel, as he grips the steering wheel. The Black Pearl is described as the only ship which can outrun the Flying Dutchman. The Freudian overtones continue in the third film when Sparrow and Barbossa battle for captaincy of the Black Pearl, showing off the length of their telescopes, and in a deleted scene, they fight over the steering wheel. Sparrow claims his first and only love is the sea, and describes his ship as representing freedom. Davy Jones's locker is represented as a desert, symbolizing his personal hell. Sparrow also has bad personal hygiene, a trait of Pepé Le Pew. Verbinski described Sparrow's breath as very foul. Sparrow knocks Will off his ship simply by huffing at him. Lastly, Sparrow has an insatiable thirst for rum, which can confuse his magic compass as to what he wants most. According to his criminal record on the At World's End website, he even sacked a shipment of rum to quench his thirst. Impact on pop culture. When Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest grossed over $1 billion worldwide, Ian Nathan attributed this to Sparrow's popularity. Pirates, the franchise, only had to turn up. There was a powerful holdover from the cheeky delights of its debut, something we hadn't felt since the Clone Wars called it a day. Empire declared Johnny Depp's performance to be the 74th thing that rocked our world in 2006 when celebrating 200 issues, and later named him as the 8th greatest movie character of all time. A survey of more than 3,000 people showed Jack Sparrow was the most popular Halloween costume of 2006, and a 2007 poll held by the Internet Movie Database showed Sparrow to be the second most popular live-action hero, after Indiana Jones. In a 2007 Polling Dean poll, Jack Sparrow was listed as Depp's most popular performance. Emmanuel Levy feels the character is the only iconic film character of the 2000s decade, while Todd Gilchrist feels Sparrow is the only element of the films that will remain timeless. According to Sharon Eberson, the character's popularity can be attributed to being a scoundrel whose occasional bouts of conscience allow viewers to go with the flaws because, as played to the larger-than-life hilt by Depp, he owns every scene he is in. Film history professor at UCLA Jonathan Kuntz also attributed his popularity to the increased questioning of masculinity in the 21st century, and Sparrow's personality contrasts with action-adventure heroes in cinema. Leonard Maltin concurs that Sparrow has a carefree attitude and does not take himself seriously. Mark Fox also noted Sparrow as an escapist fantasy figure for women, free from much of the responsibility of most heroes. Sparrow is listed by IGN as one of their 10 favorite film outlaws, as he lives for himself and the freedom to do whatever it is that he damn well pleases. Precious few film characters have epitomized what makes the outlaw such a romantic figure for audiences as Captain Jack Sparrow has. Entertainment Weekly put it on its end of the decade, best of list, saying, part Keith Richards Rift, part Sozzled Lounge Lizard, Johnny Depp's Swizzlesh Dick Pirate was definitely one of the most dazzling characters of the decade. In June 2010, Sparrow was also named one of Entertainment Weekly's 100 greatest characters of the last 20 years. Tie-ins, outside films, Captain Jack Sparrow appeared as a companion character in the 2006 video game Kingdom Hearts 2, where he was voiced by James Arnold Taylor in the English version and Hiroaki Harata in the Japanese version. Sparrow has since appeared in other video games, including Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest voiced by James Arnold Taylor for the second time. Pirates of the Caribbean, The Legend of Jack Sparrow, where he was voiced by Johnny Depp, and the game adaptation of At World's End, where he was voiced by Gerard Butler with motion capture movements provided by Johnny Patton. The character was again voiced by Gerard Butler in Pirates of the Caribbean Online, which takes place between the first and second films. Jack is also a playable character in LEGO Pirates of the Caribbean, the video game. He is also a playable character in the video game Disney Infinity, voiced by Gerard Butler. Sparrow's backstory in Pirates of the Caribbean, the complete visual guide indicates he was born on a pirate ship during a typhoon in the Indian Ocean, and that he was trained defense by an Italian. Rob Kidd wrote an ongoing book series entitled Pirates of the Caribbean, Jack Sparrow, following a teenage Sparrow and his crew on the Barnacle as they battle sirens, mermaids and adult pirates while looking for various treasures. The first book, The Coming Storm, was published on June 1, 2006. In 2011, Anne C. Crispin wrote a novel titled Pirates of the Caribbean, The Price of Freedom, which follows Jack's adventures when he worked as a merchant captain for the East India Trading Company. References. External links. Jack Sparrow at the Internet Movie Database.